find sequence. So tap on sequence. And you will see some recursive stuff going on here. You've got AN plus 1, BN plus 1, CN plus 1. If we keep going down, we'll have more. A, B, C, they just represent different sequences. Most of the time, you'll just be using A, but there might be an occasion where you're comparing two sequences. But in this instance, we're going to just look at one. Now, first and foremost, you will see there A0 equals 0. Now, we are used to doing the first term. So over here, we need to convert that to A1. We don't want A0. The time we would use A0 generally is in a context, and A0 would usually represent an initial value. So we'll come to that when at some point we will get to it, but not right now. Right now we want to focus on making sure we can set a sequence up. So you need to go to change that A0, you need to go to type, so tap on type, and then see how you've got a different series of options. So we want the second option, the one where it gives you A1, the first term. So just tap on that and it will automatically update. So here we have AN plus 1 as our recursive start, and then A1. So now we type in the sequence. So our sequence is 2TN plus 12, so we would write that as 2AN plus 12. Now the AN we don't type. There is a way to get to that, and that is see how you've got N comma AN. So anytime we want to use N or AN or something along those lines, we need to tap that as well. So this one, you can see here, AN. So you could have typed the 2 first. I'm just going to do it the other way around and go AN times 2, same difference. You could go 2 times AN, and then plus 12. And change your A1 to 5. So this is going to generate a sequence of numbers. Now the sequence of numbers that you want generated, you need to tell the calculator how many you want. It won't do them indefinitely. You need a start point and an end point. So let's say, just tapping in that icon, this icon here, the one that says arrow X and across Y, that one. So tapping on that icon, see how it says start at 1, end at 5. So that'll give me the first 5 terms, but I want term 15. So I'm just going to go start at 1 and end at 20. And that'll give you the first 20 terms, if it lets me. And we tap OK. So that gives me the first 20 terms. You might want more than that. You might want term 100. So you could technically start at term 99 and it'll just generate term 99, 100, and 100, from 99 to 100. So whatever you tell it, it will generate. If you need a really high term, you don't want to start at 1 because it'll take a lot of time to load up, generate all those numbers in the sequence. 20 is enough, a range of 20 numbers. Okay, how do we generate this sequence now? You've got to check, just like when you're drawing a graph, you've got to check that sequence. So get a tick there in that top left box. And then we generate the sequence by tapping the left, that little, on the left, on the high left, there's a little thing that looks like a list. So we tap on that list. And here is the sequence generated. And if you arrow down, so the first number is 5, we keep going. By the time we get to term 15, it's a fairly big number. So there it is, 278,516. So please just make sure you've got that. And if you haven't, let me know so we can sort it out.
I1. Mine says I0.
So you've got to go to this, tap on that icon, And, oh, hang on, it'll say type. Go back to the, up here, it'll say type, sorry. It'll say type, tap on type.
Okay. Oh, type A1. Yeah. Okay.
And then if you keep going, now notice,
Do you mind turning the TV a little bit more?
notice that as we keep going, you start to get some really big numbers. So look at term 17. Term 17 looks really weird. That's just scientific notation for 1.1 times 10 to the 6. So that's, you're getting into the millions now. If you tap on that number, you'll see at the bottom what the actual value is. So don't go by what's on the table, go by that one, because this is just a reduced version of that number. It's not exact.
We don't have the same numbers as you.
Oh, have I done something wrong?
No, I think ours is.
Okay, I'll come and have a look. Is there other people agreeing with me in these numbers?
What is yours look like?
So let's just play around with that and see how we go. Have a bigger screen. So I have now put this on the default setting. Default setting is A0, which you may use in an applied question. Most of the time, if it's not applied, we don't usually use A0, but it could come up, I guess. But mostly A0 is in an applied question when you're talking about an initial cost of a car and then it depreciates over time. So your initial cost and then A1 would be after 1 year or whatever. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make sure we've got the right type of sequence. So there is that little word at the top there that says type. You go and tap type and you've got options. Now you should only have to use the first two. The third one is or the fourth one in fact, is the Fibonacci. You'd use that for Fibonacci, for example. But we're only using 1 and 2. So today it's focused on 2, or for the time being at least, that one. So up comes now an A1. Notice A1 is there, not A0. So 1 matches then the first term. You type in your sequence, whatever that is. Now for this particular sequence, it's 2. We want to do, sorry, it's not what I want. We want to do 2 times. Now over here, something's going wrong, I don't want that. Over here at the top, you've got N and AN. That is where you get your AN. You do not type it in. You basically click on that and you can see there you've got options. AN is the one we want. Don't use B and C. You would use B and C if you're comparing 2 or 3 sequences. For you guys, most of the time it'll just be the first one. So 2 times AN and then it was plus 12. The next thing you need to make sure of, and putting in A1 is 5, is that you have enough of a range to get what you want. So the range occurs when you press that XY with the arrows. So if you tap XY with the arrows, I've already typed it in. You type in 1 and end. We want term 15. I've gone to 20. We could stop at 15 if we want. But I've gone to 20 because I wanted to show you a couple of other things. And then we hit OK. Next, what do? We check the box. Very good. So we check the box to make sure that the sequence there is the one we want. And then we tap the table like that. And you've got N and your sequence. So term 1 is 5, term 2 is 22, term 3 is 56. And if we go all the way down, we will hit bigger terms. And there it is, term 15. As I said before, sometimes these get really big. And then you've got this abbreviation or simplification of what an actual value is. It's just rounded because it can only fit so many digits in that table. So if you've got more than 5 digits, it rounds it. And so if we want an exact number, which most of the time we do, you click on this and you click on the value and you'll see it at the bottom. So 1,114,100 is term number 17 for this particular sequence. Now for some of you, you have another column. that column is not often used, but it has come up in the past. That column sums the values of your sequence. And the way we would get that column is clicking on this. Sorry, clicking into, you've got to make sure you're in the actual sequence formula display, not the table display. If you click into the formula display and then click on this diamond arrow, and then you'll see sum display, you'll see mine is off. For some of you, that's actually on. So it's just a setting that you had for whatever reason. Maybe you used it in the past. And so then if you hit the table again, you'll see there it is, the sum. So that 27 is the sum of term 1 and term 2, 22 and 5. If we add 58, we sum and we get 83. So the sum of terms is not formally part of the course. However, the odd question has slipped through and has been used because it is the expectation that you can use the calculator to get it. So you don't have to do it manually. That's what's not part of the course, not doing it manually. So the sum might be useful. Let's say, I don't know, you're practicing for a marathon and the first day you run 5 kilometres, next day 22, 56. That's not reality, obviously. But what it's saying is how much have you run up in total after 4 days? That would be 207 kilometres. That's how you would use that application for sum. Any questions? We all got that table now. All right, so on the next page then, you have the instructions, just to remind you. Okay, so pretty much everything I've said is all there, including that sum display. So notice, like I said, after the numbers get bigger than 6 digits, it then starts to round. Similarly, if you're getting lower and lower, and it goes to small decimals, it starts to round. And so to be as exact as possible, we want to click on the number that could be dubious and then read it off at the bottom of the screen. All right, so now your turn to practice. Have a go at these ones. With this one, 2 times AN and T1 is 5, so very similar, not quite the same. You're missing that plus 12. So this is just your doubling. It's a sequence of doubling, and there it is. You can see all the numbers just keep doubling, and then I've got the sum still set up, and we can keep going. It doesn't take long when you start doubling to get to very high numbers. By the time you get to term 19, you're already into the millions. So we want the 15th term, which is this one. So term 15, which is 81920. So 81, thank you. 81,920. And then it says the sum of the first 10 terms. So going back up, we want the sum, that one. So we're matching across n is 10. We want the sum 5,115. So just using the Classpad to practice. If you've got a Classpad between 2, then I want you to swap. Every time you do a question, someone else presses the buttons. So most of you have gone through question 2. I'll put the answers up to that in a moment. With question 3, it is a little bit trickier because you've got T3. Your calculator will not start at T3. It has to start at T1. Well, actually, you could start at 27, but you have to know that you are 2 positions out, which gets a little bit confusing. So you're better off saying, well, if T3 is 27 and it's 3 times a number to get there, then T2 must be 9, and T1 then must be 3. So times 3 to get to 9, and times 3 to get to 27. So if it's easy enough to do, you're better off doing that. Otherwise, you're always going to be 2 positions out, and then it might get confusing. So then typing what you need to. Your first term then we know is 3, and it's 3 TN, so you're tripling. And we want the 20th term. So if we go down, that's going to get big pretty quickly. So term 20, there it is there. It says 3.5e plus 9. Do not write that number down. And especially as you see it. E9 just means times 10 to the power of 9. But that is a simplified version of the actual number, which is pretty big. And if you can find the actual number, then you write it. 3, 4, 8, 6, 7, 8. What number is that? Who can tell me? Let me put some commas in there so it's easier to see. 3 billion, yep. 486,784,401. That's a pretty big number. And then the sum of the terms, 5 to 10 inclusive. Well, I'll let you think about how to do that. You only can... These are the first, let's say we wanted some of the first 10 numbers. Actually, not the first 10, we want the sum of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What we could do is actually sum if we know how to find the sum of the first 4, S for sum, you'll see that sometimes. And we know how to find the sum of the first 10. Because our calculator gives us those sums, values. So the sum of from 5 to 10 inclusive, so we're including these ones, will just be the total up to 10, subtract the total up to 4. Now, in the context of this question, if we go back to the calculator, the sum of the first 4 numbers is 120. And the sum of the first 10 numbers is 88572. Now, you could go and work out what the 5th term is and add term 5, term 6, term 7, term 8, term 9, term 10. You could do that. You could add those 5 or 6 numbers individually. There's 6 of them. Or you could just go the sum of the first 10, take the sum of the first 4. It's a bit quicker. Up to you. Regardless, whatever that works out to be. In your next year in particular, but even for this year, it's really handy to have your scientific and your CAS together. So in this instance, we don't really want to go out of sequence mode because we're in there. By the time we go out, we have to load out, go into main to do that calculation and then come back. If you've got your scientific next to you, you can stay in sequence, do your little scientific do your calculation here on your scientific calculator, but you're still in sequence. It's very helpful to do that. Similarly, when you're doing normal distribution, you might need to do some calculations, stay with your distribution and do your calculations on the scientific.